Today on Outside of the Box, Christine talks with many of the international competitors for Robot Rampage, an event which might become the Olympics of combat robotics.
Being there and that environment, like I got home and said to my wife, I'm building a new robot and going back to the next competition. She's like, yeah, great. And I'd ordered the parts before I left New Zealand.
I only had like 3 to 4 weeks to get Spartan 30 turned around. It's just kind of been in this like box of parts for like months. I just haven't touched it. It's just like in pieces. So it was very much a race against the clock, but I just ran out of class. I was like, I have to use the bathroom, and then was gone for 10 minutes messaging Sam.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Outside of the Box. And I know it wasn't too long ago that we went back to international coverage talking about Robot Rampage, but the event happened and it was an amazing event. And I think that this deserves a proper recap. So we're kind of talking to the teams, about their experiences with the event. And I thought it would be the most proper thing to start with the team from New Zealand, being the host country for this event. So, Connor, of course, welcome back to the show, and everyone else, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Hi.
Of course. Well, first of all, I want to talk about just like the robots in general, because I don't think most of my viewers are probably going to be familiar with any of these robots as much as maybe, say, the ones in the US, for example. If everybody could kind of talk a little bit about their robot and how they kind of designed it and how they felt going into the event. So whoever wants to start.
I suppose I can start.
Yep.
So my robot's Black Rose, a small little four-wheel drive drum spinner. Got a dual drumlets on the front with a center belt. So it's a very small, low, fully symmetric design that can run fully inverted, and four wheels on, pushed about to as far to the corners as you can get, pretty much. All steel construction with Hardox frame and, nice big chunky polyurethane wheels with a weapon that absolutely rips. So it's sounds pretty good. But there's been teething issues along the way. We got it to a pretty good place with some brand new weapon components coming into this event. So I was pretty confident coming in. Later to be found that I'd created some other issues. But going into the event, I was pretty confident with it. So that's a quick synopsis on my robot.
Yeah, and that's the crux of combat robotics, right? You fix one thing and then like other things happen. So you never know. Whoever wants to go next.
Yeah, we can go next for Mjolnir. Mjolnir is a relatively dense horizontal spinner. And it's got a fairly long reach asymmetrical hammer shaped weapon with a lot of the weight out in the hammerhead. So it's more of I would call it a spinning hammer rather than a typical like a cutting blade or a weapon that's got a point to it. It's meant for high impact. The weapon itself is made of 20 mil thick Hardox 550, so it's pretty heavy duty weapon. The entire chassis is made of grade 5 titanium. With the exception of Hardox armor plating that we've got wrapped around. I think most notably the bot was completely redesigned before this event, because in the kind of test bed for the whole international format against Team Australia, that would have been about 6 months prior to this event, we got quite literally obliterated by a bot that others might be familiar with called Obliterator. Also, after managing to barely get it back in the arena, then we ended up getting set on fire by a hammer saw. So we decided it was time for a rebuild. But the rebuild went well, and the bot was performing fantastically for this event. We had a couple of really minor issues in our first fight against Brazil, which was really down to our preparation more so than the bot's problem. But yeah, for the rest of the event, it was firing on all cylinders and worked really great. We were really, really happy with the performance. He smashed lots of things and, and did incredible amounts of damage.
I mean, we were very confident with the redesign, but there was still a question of exactly how much better the things that we set out to improve, drive being a very considerable one, how much improved it would be. So we're pleasantly surprised by how much, mainly Paul's redesign, I helped with the manufacture and I'm driving, just completely changed how it drove.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very different bot. Looks the same. We tried to keep the silhouette the same, but it's a very, very different bot this time around. So yeah. That's about it. Who's next?
All right. Well,
I brought it with me just in case this happened. Here's Cutlass.
He's one-upping us with the show and tell.
Well, I prepped, man. I don't have the lifter on, but this is how it was made with the drum. Big wedge. That was the only intention at the start. Kind of helped me build it. And for the tournament, only Forks wasn't back. We needed a lifter. Here's the CAD. We tried to make something work. Depends how much you want to say it worked, but I think it's really good. It's a tank, and I get to paint it. I don't have much to say. It's its second tournament. Not much experience. I'm the newest on the team, I'd say. But yeah.
Tanks are good. Like, tanks are really a great type of robot to have, to be honest. So
yeah. Well, I've just built wedges for builder weights, so build a wedge for a featherweight.
all right,
That puts you up
who's
there,
up?
Shall I speak next?
Yeah.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Yep, we can hear.
Tell you about Snollygoster. It was thrown together in about 4 days, just as a quickie for a very first beetle weight event in New Zealand. And it was really just intended to be a temporary bot, but it's kind of taken on a life of its own and a bit of an audience following. So it's been evolved quite a bit to the stage that we've seen it more recently. It was a well underweight, full-size bot. But then Connor approached me and said, can you cut it down to half weight so we can make a multi-bot? So that's it. In its current iteration, it comes in at half weight. And it's a control bot, but it's at its best now. It took quite a while to get it to the stage.
And the frame from that is 100% UHMW, correct? Yeah.
Well, I started out with a bit of steel in it, but metals don't get on well with me in robots.
I mean, I think you win the award for the most wood screws in a featherweight.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I'm supporting the manufacturing industry single-handedly.
It would be pretty close with Chef Woody.
God, it's actually made of wood.
It's actually made of wood. So
supporting plywood and just he buys it by full sheets.
Yep.
But so we're now looking at a full rebuild and a V2 for a Snollygoster because it seems to have developed a life of its own and got an audience following. So looks like it's here to stay.
Yeah, I guess.
I can
go next.
I was just saying
What do you
I
want to
can
talk about Ragamuffin?
explain Ragamuffin, yeah. So, as sort of alluded to about 6 months ago, we did a trial of this format. It was Australia, New Zealand, and to fit it, we didn't have enough bots to fit the or different types of robots to fit the 4 different required types, and so that's when I approached Mike about going down to 50%, and I took all of the spares from Black Rose, all the drive and the weapon and the speed controllers and switches and all of that, and then just made an umpy frame and spun a vert real fast. So that was sort of how it started. A few bits of hard ox on that, so it was a 1 kg weapon and got the robot that's now become Ragamuffin. built using a whole bunch of spares, and it again, it worked pretty well. I think people loved it. It was a very short wheelbase, and it loved cartwheeling through the air in that original fight. And then I think, yeah, it's very much like Snolly's sort of, when it's running right, people seem to love it. So it's sort of stayed. So after that first event that I built it, I handed it off to Josh, who couldn't make it to the call today, and so he's been piloting it since then, and working with Mike to make some small upgrades and evolve it since then. And it has proven to be, when there's not electrical gremlins, a really durable robot for being half weight. So yeah. Tim, you want to go?
Yep. So my robot is Fury Fox, which, well, it kind of fits to be the last one because my position was kind of up in the air of whether or not I would be selected to be the second vert. But I had done a full redesign and rebuild with new frame since the previous event. But it's a four-wheel drive, wide body vertical spinner, but it's not a very tall spinner. It's a 25 mil thick asymmetrical disc. And the notable features of it is full modular front end. So I can attach wedges, forks, all sorts of things on the front. I've got a whole bunch of attachments made, which really helps with filling in any spots within the matchups of who we're going against. I can kind of go against anyone. Yeah. It's made of anodized aluminium, so it's very orange. So it's one of the most colorful bots out there, as I'm known for making everything orange. And then it's got titanium and of course the AR blade. Yeah, and a little bit of umpy. Yeah.
Very cool. Now, one of the things that I really wanted to ask about in terms of the competition itself is, for your team with the competition that you faced, I think that the juxtaposition of fighting the Brazilians versus fighting the Australians is really interesting because obviously Brazilians, very experienced team. They are just the energy that they have is insane. Every time I watch them fight is crazy. And I know that the Australian team had a lot of newer bots, like newer featherweights and stuff like that. So I would imagine they were coming at it from a competitive, but a little bit more of a chill approach versus Brazil. So I kind of want to talk about the difference between fighting those two teams because it probably was interesting.
Yeah, I suppose in the match it's very different atmosphere, but like outside of the match, they're both teams are very it's the whole combat robot atmosphere, right? Everyone helps everyone. So like even though in the match they're got their high energy, they're representing Brazil, all that kind of stuff. If you come up to them with a question like, "Hey, how does this work?" or "Could you help me with this?" Nah, everyone at the competition, no matter who it was willing to help. So on that aspect, I didn't see a huge difference apart from speaking Portuguese. And but like in the match, just the energy they bring is amazing. And like even in the chat, like you would have seen even at NHRL, anytime there's Brazilians on screen, it's floods of just Portuguese support, and they bring that, and it just brings a totally different energy to the fight as well, which is interesting. I think after the fight, my parents were watching, and they said you would never be dancing around the arena after that, after you won. And I was like, nah, probably not. So, but it's great. Like from New Zealand, it's awesome getting those people there so that you do have those different cultures. So.
Biggest thing from my perspective was that just kind of experiencing those different teams and the different experiences they brought. And I thought from the Brazilian perspective, as you all alluded to, yeah, the energy and the passion that they bring to the sport is pretty crazy. The other thing I was really impressed with is their level of focus on everything. Like, you know, during the match, they are just like hyper focused, but also in the pits. Like, I was really impressed with after our fight with Dark Chaos in the early one, the level of damage we dealt to that bot was devastating. And yet they managed to, like, they were just all hands on deck, you know, crazy, massive rebuild to get that bot back in the arena and ultimately win that matchup for them, you know, in that final fight. And that level of focus to just pull that off was really impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm curious too, because like as you said, you had the matchup with the Australians in the first event where it was just kind of like that test and everything. Did they bring anything different that surprised you from the first time? Because I'm sure that they had some takeaways from that initial event.
I think there was only one returning bot between the two events. So yes, it was a lot different. It was almost an entirely new team. So it was, for us, it was pretty much throw away a lot of the same strategy. But I think, yeah, we can go into it a bit later. But sort of the strategy we bring to this is there's not a lot of forward planning because the match is going to be what it is. It's sort of that 30 minutes before it's make a plan, and then during the match because so much can happen, it's everyone gathers together and we make we're continually evolving that plan as the match is going. I forgot where I was going with that. So
No, but it's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned the strategy, like because the strategy was actually going to be my next question because with this format being a little bit more unique than what most people are used to with a combat robotics competition, you can't plan for it in the same way that you would a traditional like Swiss, type of matchup where, you know that you have so many matches potentially and things like that. It's much more of like a gauntlet where you just have to kind of survive and outlast. And the more that you can outlast the other team, the better you're probably going to ultimately do. So what was that strategy for you all? And thinking about like which robot would go first and all of that.
Oh, I mean, I can start with the first fight being in there. The idea being I'm okay into 4 of the 5 robots. And knowing what I knew from the first tournament I was at, big verts with fast forks, that's my big issue. So that's what I got. And at least it looks cool when I go up in flames. But yeah, thinking wedge can take on a horizontal and a drum. I've got Hardox on the top plate, so I can take the overhead, and I can drive upside down, so I can take the lifter. But I just got really unlucky, I guess.
I think it was a little bit of, I would use the word tactics rather than strategy to some degree, in the sense that we basically had to make the decisions on the fly. What do we think based on their lineup and our lineup that they're going to open with, and who has weaknesses to what, right? So we're looking at each of our bots in the lineup and kind of talking through it and saying, what are we comfortable against? What are we kind of a little on the fence, and what do we not want to face for each bot, and then trying to figure what the most flexible option was. And that's where Travis came out with Cutlass was kind of the best opener for us, because it was, of all the probabilities, was the least likely to have from what we thought was going to happen. And unfortunately it went wildly against what we thought was going to happen, but in that fight. But yeah, that's kind of what. And then each time a fight evolves, then we think, okay, well, now what information do we have that we didn't have previously, and what are we going to change at that step? So we just kind of make that change and make those decisions tactically as the match unfolds, based on the options available to us.
And so I think, in that decision making process, although I've got the team captain or whatever, every driver knows what their robot or what they're comfortable fighting, or I'm a bit worried about this robot or that robot. And so coming together as a team at every decision point and sort of saying, all right, what do we think? Let's plan this out a bit. If we lose this fight or if we win this fight, what are we going to do? And then based on the robots we have left and what they have left, and also do we have the sub left in our in our arsenal to play, and that just really in the heat of the moment is what dictates what we play next. There's very little you can do beforehand, except for the fact of like, oh, my robot will be great against that, terrible against that. Apart from that, it's very restrictive. And I don't know, in the previous conversation, Christine, when we were talking about the format, whether we talked about this, but it was configs have to be locked before the match starts. So even though Tim has a lot of configs, we had to decide the direction you want to go, and so it it removes another game of element of rock paper scissors there, and so there's very little you can change once the match is underway. It's just, all right, who's comfortable with what, how we're going to proceed, who we're going to hold back, and then go from there.
I mean that makes it interesting for sure.
Yep.
This was the second time that we had competed with this format. First time being with Australia, 6 months ago. And in a situation, you can really play it two ways. You can put the strongest robot up first and hope to hit him hard and keep up the momentum. Or you can put up a lesser robot and the assumption that you're still going to wear out their best robot. So there's two opposite approaches, both of which have got merits. So really drive and see.
Yeah. One other thing that I really wanted to touch on is because, like, especially as the host team, I think this event had to be super meaningful for all of you to not only get to participate, but to get to bring in these teams from different parts of the world and compete. Especially Australia is not terribly far from New Zealand, but bringing in teams like Brazil and the US, and have competitors that haven't got to go there before. And not only that, but like for them to come away from it with such an amazing experience, because I've heard just nothing but glowing remarks about the experience there, both from competitors and from attendees. So talk about like that, of getting to have this event and have it be, by all accounts that I can see, extremely successful, and have something to really grow off of for future events.
One thing I will say, and it's more from a competitor standpoint, is it was really rewarding for us that we could test our mettle against teams that are known to be very dangerous and very good, like high-end competitors, and we were holding our own. Mjolnir had Dark Chaos on the ropes. I mean, Connor quite literally balanced one of their Jubilee, which is a very storied robot, on its ass and left it there within seconds, really. So it was quite gratifying to know that even though our feather scene is very young, we're not that far behind, if at all, really.
Yeah, that's a good proof point. I think that being that New Zealand is reasonably isolated geographically speaking, it's not every day that we're going to get the opportunity to compete against these varied teams. So creating this opportunity through this format and creating the scenario where they can come to us gives us a lot more opportunity to have varied opponents and to experience different types of bots, different builders, styles, different scenarios, and that's really cool. Because up until now, it's mostly been against our own kind of local small community, right? So that was really exciting, I think, for everybody, just having those additional new faces appearing with new bots, and especially like Aki said, like some of them are really well-known bots that have been around for some time and have a bit of a history, right? And being able to compete against them and see how we do was an exciting test. Yeah.
And I think even outside of the competition, just getting to show them around. You New Zealanders, and it's just funny. Even like some of the food is just like, whoa, it tastes fresh. You're like, all right, you know, cool. Like this is just normal to me, but like it just, you know, you don't get that perspective if they ever come here, right? It's or I think I took a couple of them down to the beach the day after the competition, and just driving. They're like, it's, you know, 1 second it looks like you're driving through a rainforest, and then you're just out in the middle of sheep country, and it's just super bizarre. They're not used to. It almost feels like. So this was Johnny and Corey in the car with me, and they were just sort of saying like, you know, it's, you know, you see similar in parts of the States. You'll see similar, you know, similar wildlife or whatever, but you know they'll be in entirely different corners, and you'll just be on a half-hour drive, and you're just shooting through all these different landscapes, and then just like everything's just similar but so different at the same time. And it's cool just being able to show them, you know, hey, we live, this is just where we live. Like it's cool, like on that aspect, even just entirely outside of the competition. So
yeah, and I guess maybe that's part of what my question was too, is because I think it's, you know, it's a neat thing to have a robot competition, but also have the opportunity to share your culture. I think is a really cool opportunity, because I mean, like, you know, a lot of people haven't traveled a lot and, you know, gotten to see different things, and I think being able to share that is really neat. And from what I've heard too, just the camaraderie as a whole, like, which by the way, speaking of Corey and Johnny, they probably raved about every single person at the competition and how nice they were. So, you know, getting to make those connections in the community and have a really cool event, I think is awesome. And obviously I want to see this continue to build and, you know, be able to incorporate other countries into it moving forward.
I think that's the plan, right? You know,
Yeah,
roll
definitely.
on
Definitely.
2027 with hopefully a few more teams, but we'll see what gets announced a bit later in the year. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's super exciting, to me for sure, because I think that, you know, everybody I think can be so isolated and not get to know or hear about what's going on, with, you know, combat robotics, or really a lot of things in other countries. And I think getting the word out and like letting people know, hey, there's this cool thing going there, you know, going on there, is great. And that's kind of what drew me to this event, because I love the format. I think it's awesome, and I want to see it get even bigger. At this point, my understanding is I think the next event is in May for you all. It's not going to be this, but it is going to be, another event there.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got me locked
That'll-
in, and I think it's going to be a continuing, like that's more of a standard kind of individual bots featherweight kind of tournament, and we have those pretty regularly. I think at this point, the it really speaks to the hard work that, you know, Jack and Nick and the whole team at Robot Rampage have done in building out what they've built for us, so that we have, you know, a venue and an opportunity to compete on a regular basis here, in a relatively small corner of the world. And so that's pretty awesome, and that we can, you know, at least every few months we can actually get together and we've got a lot of bots too for a relatively small country. We have a decent sized field here.
I think the
But then,
latest
yeah,
count was
extending it.
16, was it? 16
Yeah, I think it
bots,
is.
and
We
we've
got
been
16,
operating
17.
for 6 events so far, or something like that. Yeah.
So it's exciting seeing that engagement from the community and seeing people get involved in building bots, and it's like I said, it's a testament to what those guys have built at Robot Rampage, what they've done for the hobby and the sport, in this country, and then the fact that they've built out this new exciting format and they've taken it internationally, and we've been able to attract teams. You know, that's just awesome. I mean, that is super exciting to be kind of in the middle of that and be able to experience it firsthand.
Yeah, the Australians were mentioning how they basically only get a feather event maybe once or twice a year. And I was honestly shocked by that, because obviously Australia, even just by population, ignoring the landmass, which is frankly ridiculous, Oh, I feel like that might be part of the problem. Like they don't have many events, so it's really cool to be able to. And as a new custodian of Bad Blood, which is back there, um, it's exciting.
Yeah, yeah, and for sure. Because I mean, even here in the States, like, yes, NHRL has a lot of competitions, but the United States being the size that it is, that is far away for, a lot of people. And so the travel aspect, there's only so many places even here that have featherweight competitions. And so, yeah, I mean, just any accessibility to get people into this and get them into different weight classes, I think is an amazing thing to do. And I'm just looking forward to seeing more of it. So yeah. Well, thank you all for joining me on the show. And this is going to be a very supersized episode with lots of teams talking about their experiences, which I think is just going to be great to hear from everybody. And yeah, it's an exciting episode. So stay tuned if you're watching, and there's much more to come. All right, robot fighting fans, we are talking on this segment to a member of Team Australia as part of Robot Rampage. So I have Phil with me here to talk about your team's experience in this event, which it really seemed like just an incredible event. I've heard nothing but good feedback from those who either attended or competed. So the first thing I want to talk about is that, from what I understand, the Team Australia and Team New Zealand actually had a prior kind of competition as a warm up to this event to kind of do it as a more like a testing ground. So you already had a little bit of experience as to what this was going to be. So I want to talk a little bit about that as like the preview to lead up to what this event was.
Okay, thanks for having me, Chrissy. Yeah, so obviously, I wasn't in the previous event, the
Okay.
New Zealand versus Australia. However, we streamed it at home. We have a projector, watched the whole thing live the whole time. So I knew roughly what I was getting myself into. And the event I was going into, I also spoke to a few of the other competitors, and it definitely delivered on what was promised.
It sure seemed that way. So, going into the event, first of all, I'm curious because I feel like I don't know enough about world geography in parts of the world that I haven't been to, but how far of a trip is it exactly for you to go from Australia to New Zealand?
For me personally, it's a 5 hour drive and a 3 hour flight. It's not too far realistically. And for a couple of the other guys, it was literally just a flight across. So it's about 3.5 hours from Sydney to Auckland,
Okay.
which not too far realistically.
Yeah, compared to what people travel over here in the US to get to robot competitions, yeah, that's
Yeah.
not too bad at all. So yeah, I mean, how like talk about the Team Australia's robots and what your thoughts were going into the event as far as like the bots that you were bringing versus maybe what you were going to be up against with some of the other teams.
Look, it's no surprise we didn't do particularly well in our fighting. We did particularly poorly, but we'll get to that. Going into the event, we knew a few of the robots coming up. We really struggled to put together a team. So out of our robots, 4 out of the 5, it was their first fight, which probably explains to a lot of the people who watched what exactly happened. Just being coming from Australia, we only have one featherweight or a couple of featherweight competitions a year, and we just didn't have the numbers of the people. Everybody was busy and that kind of thing to put together a really solid team. So we put together what we could. Basically, my featherweight was my first featherweight build, and a lot of the other guys were in the same boat. It was one of those get the robots together so we could actually have a fight situation. And we're still pretty proud of our achievement, let's say, of getting all our robots there and actually competing.
Yeah, honestly, as I always say in robot combat, that's kind of half the battle. There's so many people that will build a robot and it doesn't even get to fight at all. So having a fight, no matter how that goes, is, a good experience, I think. Um, how was the crowd and everything there? Because again, like I've seen some videos and it just seemed like a lot of good energy.
It was better than any experience I'd had previously in any form of sport. Especially for me, because I'd only competed at events where the spectators were other builders and they're enthusiastic and that kind of thing, and it's always great. But going to that was just 10 levels higher. The crowd are electric. You feel the crowd when you're competing, and to have that behind you is a whole different ballgame of experience. It is brilliant, to be honest. The way the venue's set up that gives the builders their room, and like their driving space, that also worked very well with the teams event as well. And the crowd around you, it was fantastic. I can't rave about it high enough, to be honest.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Now I have to ask this question because I'm going to ask Corey a similar question on the other side of that. But Team Australia got to experience synthesis. Um,
Very much so.
and here in the States, we're all pretty familiar with synthesis and what it can do. I can't say that I've ever seen it do that to that extent, but talk about that because I mean, I think sometimes you learn a lot just by seeing what happens to your robots in that type of competition, even if it doesn't go your way. And so I'm sure you probably at least learned a lot about how the robots can break.
Oh, look, 100%. I was actually speaking to Corey a little bit previous to the event and talking about robots, and I knew who he was through obviously watching NHRL and that kind of thing. And it was brilliant to meet him and now call him a mate. So it's just some of those benefits of robot fighting and the community in it. But fighting him was awesome, to be honest. He was really professional about it. He could have destroyed every one of our robots and not cracked a sweat. He got very lucky on a couple of them. For instance, the windings in my Outrunner came out in my weapon and jammed it. Something just never happens. One of our other robots, Tempest, he hit the front cover and it popped the link out. So he got pretty lucky as well in saying, I don't think luck really had a huge part in this. That robot is just fierce, to be honest. I'm looking forward to fighting again.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun to like do it the first time and then you see what happened and you're like, okay, what do I need to do to be able to overcome this? Should the opportunity arise in the future? Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We learn the hard way sometimes.
Yeah, that is for sure. Yeah, I mean, it still sounds like it was a fun time. And one thing I heard from a lot of the competitors was just overall like the level of like friendship and like everything between the teams, that everybody was very friendly and everybody was very helpful, and I think everybody came away from the event feeling really positive about it. So I want to talk about that, like getting to interact with people from teams in other parts of the world, which not every combat robotics builder has that opportunity to experience that, and that's one of the coolest things I thought.
Yeah, well, definitely. So as much as it was a team's event, the pit still had a very mate camaraderie. So for instance, one of our team members, Baller, he was welding together the Brazilian robots for a day or so, and that was great. Even when each team was fighting, like especially with Corey and the Americans who we were getting along quite well with, like we were running drinks to each other. Do you need help? Do you need parts? And that we do get that normally in our fighting in Australia, but it felt just a little bit more connected because we were actually helping a whole team. It definitely had a different feeling to a normal competition in that the way the fight structures and the urgency for those robots, especially the tapping out a robot and bring it back in at the end and the repairs there and some of the things that were seen there were amazing. Especially the Brazilians with Dark Chaos, that thing was destroyed. And I walked out about 10 minutes before they fell out and they were cutting something out with a grinder out of the chassis and they had it back in the pit, in the arena. It was fantastic. But seeing like everyone didn't just go into their own little countries. Everyone was still perfectly happy to help everyone, and it was literally a really great group of people together. Like everyone was so helpful and nice.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that repair aspect a little bit because I would say in my experience in competitions over here that once you get deep into a tournament that maybe you have less of a repair window, but this was a lot more high pressure in the sense that like okay, like you've got to get the robot ready to fight again pretty soon because it's a gauntlet. It's not, it's not just like one fight and then you fight whoever like moved on from the other thing. It's just a pure
Yeah.
gauntlet. And so I think the ability to repair and think about what you might have to do if XYZ happens, like I think there's a lot more of that that would have had to happen in this event.
Yeah, there was also a little bit of aspect of because we were watching that series of robots fight. When one robot was taken out, I think these Brazilian ones especially, it became a spectacle outside of them repairing the robot, and they were like looking from inside inside the arena, essentially out. You could hardly see a time where there weren't people there either helping him or passing tools or you know drink or just generally watching, which would add a whole nother level of the need for repairs and the pressure under that, which they really shined at, to be honest. It was really great to see because we weren't fighting that night, so we were just spectators. It was fantastic to watch and to see how other people work under that pressure as well.
Yeah, yeah, I would imagine so, because I think you learn something too by kind of seeing that and not being the one that's having to do it, as
Yeah.
well. Um, Now I would assume based on kind of how you've been talking, if this is, it seems like this is something that, Robot Rampage wants to do again in the future, and kind of continue to build on it. I would imagine that the Australian team would love to go back and be part of this again.
Look, comfortably. So I know all of the people who've competed. We are all currently already working on renditions of our robots with just upgrades. I'm working on a complete brand new robot that I'm actually going to take to New Zealand for the end of May competition. I really want my redemption for that one, put it that way. So look, it's if nothing else, let's say our failure in the arena definitely spurred on a lot more need to do better and a lot more probably active builds that we're now going through. So it being there and that environment, like I got home and said to my wife, I'm building a new robot and going back to the next competition. She's like, yeah, great. So I'd ordered the parts before I left New Zealand. So definitely the environment that Jack and the team have built there, especially during that big event, obviously I can't speak for their smaller events, it's just fantastic. I can only honestly see it getting better. No team had a bad time that I know of. We all hung out and had lunch and that kind of thing, and everyone was ranting how great it was as well. So I can only see it being an event that's going to get bigger.
Yeah, I would say based off of results and just feedback that I've seen so far, and I mean, because I know you talked about the fact that a lot of your team, this was their first featherweight, and so like you said, I think it seems like actually getting in there and getting to fight with one has like given you more inspiration to want to do it again and make it better, and come with like maybe some new ideas.
100%. Just that whole the where, as I say, where it's fought, just the vibe in the room, I guess, is just ecstatic. I can tell you I was standing next to a bunch of Brazilian guys with jerseys on at the end of the finals, and as Brazil won, I think I got hearing damage from them. They're the most excitable people I've ever met. And that just added, and because you were seeing people show up with, obviously they were football or soccer jerseys they were wearing, but to support their country was just great. And I can only see that growing. So it was definitely a great event.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. There's definitely some other countries that, I know have a pretty good combat robotics presence, that I'd love to see there in the future. So, UK, I'm looking at you guys. So yeah, I think that it would be fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this event grow because I called it the Olympics of combat robotics, and I truly think that like it could be that eventually the more and more that this gets run. So
100%, 100%. It has a
yeah.
lot of similarities. It's individuals working together under a country's banner, and that's just works out great. So
Yes, for sure.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Phil, for kind of sharing your experience about the event. It's really exciting to hear about, and we have more to come on this episode as we're going to be talking to all of the teams and kind of get some feedback about those experiences. So keep watching this episode. All right, welcome back. And we have another segment on this episode. And of course, the American team, as part of Robot Rampage, happen to have two of my favorite people in the robotic community, which is always a bonus. So I'm super excited to talk about the whole experience of the event with Johnny Supas and Corey Nason. So, of course, two pretty regulars on the show. Welcome back to talk about this amazing event.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
For sure. Now, first of all, my first thing that I think I want to talk about, especially with both of you, is to talk a little bit about your reactions of being chosen for this, because not to say that it was like easy for the teams that are kind of closer to there, but like they live there. It's it's nearby, so it's not quite the experience of traveling all the way around the world to this amazing event and things like that and being chosen for something that I honestly I think was pretty awesome. So I just want to kind of get your reactions to like getting that invite in the first place.
Do you want to go first, Johnny?
Oh, sure. Um, I was in class when Henchman Sam messaged me on Discord and he was like, it was right after I think Corey, um, I learned that Corey was going to New Zealand. And I was like, oh my God, Corey, that's so cool. Are you kidding me? This is the coolest thing ever. And then like an hour later, I got the DM from Henchman Sam like, hey, are you free like February? And I was like, this isn't what I like think it is, right? And he was like, do you wanna come? We need spots to fill. And how can you say no to like an all expenses paid for trip to New Zealand? The only scary thing was I only had like 3 to 4 weeks to get Spartan 30 turned around, and it's just kind of been in this like box of parts for like months. I just haven't touched it. It's just like in pieces. And I needed to get some parts shipped from China. That was the biggest thing. Um, so it was very much a race against the clock, but I was so like I just ran out of class. I was like, I have to use the bathroom, and then was gone for 10 minutes messaging Sam. But yeah, I was elated. It felt like the start of a fever dream, honestly. It was wild.
For me, it was very, very weird. It was a busy day at work. It was a I did a double shift prior the Thursday, and then going into Friday, I usually do an 8 hour shift, and then I kind of vegetate for the Friday leading into my weekend off. So I knew about Robot Rampage having an event. However, the kind of what prerequisites they were going to have in place were not what they were now. It was kind of pay your way, kind of set up a team, and so I said, "Oh, that's kind of cool," but at the same time, it's kind of a struggle, or it was kind of a stretch to imagine being able to do all of that. So the Friday, I get a message from Connor of Black Rose. I didn't initially pick up my phone and read it. I just saw that he had messaged me, and I'm kind of confused at first. And then I read it, and he was like, "I know this is a stretch, but are you available for mid towards the end of February? Robot Rampage is doing the World Cup, and if you're available, well, we would like to have you as part of Team USA." I was didn't actually believe this was like a real message getting it to begin with. I thought this was fake or someone was playing a joke. Um, I said, "Yeah, what are like um how much help are you guys going to give me?" "Oh, we'll pay for the trip and we'll pay for the accommodations." That's big because getting to New Zealand is not a cheap affair. And so leading into the end of the end of last year, leading into this year, going into December finals, I had prepped three full synthesis and I took minimal damage, so I had all the parts ready to go. So that wasn't the issue going in. So I knew I'd be able to uphold that end. But just getting the message alone was just so surreal, and just thinking about traveling for something that we're all very passionate about for one of our hobbies that kind of takes over our life every single day. It was just amazing, and I think it was like Johnny said, it was a fever dream, more or less.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I heard, I don't know, a little birdie told me, Corey, that you slept for most of the plane trip. So that would have made it easier for sure to get through that long flight. But let's kind of talk about the experience as a whole of actually being there in New Zealand, because obviously you were there for the competition, but also I'm sure that you got time to kind of see some things and experience the culture outside of just the competition. So I want to hear from both of you a little bit about that aspect, because for me, like that would have been the coolest thing, honestly.
I'll go first on this one. Johnny got first on the last one. From the moment we landed, everything was very different. Like just seeing driving on the right side, the driver on the right side of the car instead of the left. It was very different. Everyone was very friendly. I don't think we met a single person that was either rude, impatient, or rushing. So that in itself was very big and very different. It was very warm and humid too, and I did not pack for warm and humid. I had pants, and going into day two, I ended up just rolling up my pant legs and wearing them like shorts, and the weather didn't let up any bit. Not that I'm complaining, because back home it was getting ready for a very hectic snowstorm. Um, the things you don't really think about, like for example, the New Zealand dollar is half of what an American dollar is. So like a cup of coffee is, I think it was like 5 New Zealand dollars. So it was only like $2.50 American dollars. So everything was so inexpensive and cheap. Um, we also got to meet Jack Barker the moment we landed. Nothing but one of the nicest people I've ever met. I mean, everyone was so nice, but it's nice was the easiest adjective that I could think of for everyone. And yeah, I'm kind of at a loss for words. What about you, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, like the biggest. I was trying not to like fanboy too much, but it was surreal to like meet the end game guys, and they were so nice. I'd never like if you told like 13-year-old me while I was watching them win the giant nut that they'd be picking me up from the airport and we'd be like chatting and making friends with them, basically spending a week and staying at Jack's dad's house. Like that's like like what are you talking about? Um it's so cool that like in this community you can do that. It's not like some like crazy unattainable dream. Like, oh, I want to like I don't know. Like the chances of me like becoming friends with Tom Brady are pretty slim. But our sports equivalent is JMO. And you know what I mean? Like the kind of smaller scale community of the sport is such a cool aspect of it, where you can meet your idols, and they're also all really cool and nice. Um, but yeah, being there, like, it almost reminded me of what I imagine the sport was like almost like a decade ago. It was much less streamlined, hyper competitive robots. And that was also the nature of some of the teams, that some people just had to throw things together. But everyone there was so um just like kind. Like what Corey was saying. It's so hard to put into words how kind every single person was. Um and we got to spend like a whole week with everyone. It was great. The New Zealand team, the Australian team, the Brazilians. Everyone was just like really, really good, chill, like overly friendly people. It was so cool. Um, Unlike Corey, I did like the weather. I love the warm humidity. I'm a little Bahama boy. So I did not complain to break out the shorts. I do remember you rolling your pants up, Corey. Um, and yeah, and for the first week, we were just at the event. Only the last day that we were there did we really like get to see the rest of New Zealand, which was cool. But yeah, I'll stop yapping.
You can yap. Kind of bouncing off of you because you gave me a lot of thoughts and memories that I completely blanked out on. Like just hanging out with the Australians was probably one of the coolest moments. Not disrespecting any other team, but like I felt we got very close with Phil,
Yeah,
Owen. I never, I never remember Frogish's name.
Bola. I love Bola.
Bola. They were all so cool, and then
Lily, yeah,
Hayden.
Hayden.
Like Johnny was saying, even the competitive Brazilians going into each fight, it didn't feel like
I
it was
know.
a do or die. It felt like a fun match. Like when we fought the Australians, before each match, we didn't shake hands, we gave hugs. It was like just two best friends having a match. Um, Jack's dad staying with him was amazing. He
That
made
was
us
such a
breakfast
trip.
every single morning, and even to put it off best, the very first morning that we woke up, I didn't even imagine that like he basically rolled out a pristine mint 1970s Dodge Challenger, and he's like, "We're gonna drive you Yanks in this car." It was so beautiful. But yeah, a lot of the days were spent at the facility. But on the day when the snowstorm hit and we were delayed one extra day, we said that was terrible. Getting stuck in paradise for an extra 24 hours is the worst thing possible. But no, we went to a black sand beach, which I've never been to. The water was crystal clear. Um, and us boys playing with our toys, Johnny got to show me what crawling was all about, and it looks a lot of fun. Sam, Colin were flying their drones through like these caves and everything. It was just cool, and I've never actually got to see a Man of War before, and I got to see a lot of them on the beach.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of them washed up. That was one of the highlights of my trip as well. That last day, we, as Corey said, we got delayed, and we and the Brazilians and some of the New Zealand guys as well. We just had like the most nerdy beach day ever. I mean, like there were like three RC cars, a couple FPV drones, and then Sam and Colin bought these mini excavator and dump truck toys, like fully RC proportional drive and everything. They were like insane. So we were just like digging sand in the beach. It was so nerdy. It was so fun. It was great. Um,
One last,
yeah, you go.
sorry. One last thing I need to contribute to this is even before even going to this event, as soon as I had heard I was getting invited, Johnny got invited, I just kept watching the Robot Rampage streams, and I got familiar with the builders and the robots, and meeting them in person is so much cooler than seeing them on the stream. And it was very surreal and what's the word, inception, because I remember watching them and then meeting them in person and getting to get to know them. And then they talked about how they've watched the NHRL stream and they've seen me fight, they've seen Johnny fight, they've seen jump rope fight. So it was so cool, like me watching them while they watch me and the rest of the Team USA. So it was very surreal, and it was the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really cool, unique things about combat robotics is there's so many people that like are fans of each other in their own respect. And I mean, I think that that's what's really great about the community. I know you talked a little bit about it, but I want to talk about, you know, some as far as the competition itself and the unique way that the competition was set up. It was one of the things that really drew me to the idea of this event in the first place, is because I love diversity in combat robotics so much, and forcing everybody to have a unique archetype, and kind of see how that plays out over the course of like a gauntlet of fights. I think is a really unique way of doing it. So talk about that aspect and how you both had to kind of prepare for that, because yes, like any tournament is a gauntlet of sorts, but not quite in the same way.
Yeah. It it was like Pokemon battles. It was so cool. I was really because I don't know if like anyone who's listening knows, but you only had 8 minutes of repair time in between your fight if you won. So it's 5v5, but 1v1 fights. And if you win the fight, you knock that robot out for the other team, and you keep fighting until there's no one left on one team, until a team runs out of robots. So if you win, but you take heavy damage, you only have 8 minutes to repair whatever you can and send it in. There are some like I'm not sure what the word would be, but exceptions, I guess, to this format where like you're allowed one bench. You're allowed to bench a robot once if it was damaged heavily, and you get more repair time, and then it has to go last as your like last pick. Um, and you can choose to like swap a robot out, or sorry, that's the bench. Um, and there were like a couple really cool intricacies that like this format provided. It kind of like flipped everything on its head in a way. Um, I think they're geniuses, honestly, for figuring out a way to turn the dead space, like the dead air time that you would have on a normal event in between fights, and take that and make it entertainment because people want to see like the insides of robots, how they work. And I think um having it be part of the fun and the stress as well for the audience, like, oh, can they fix it in time? Was really, really interesting. And the nature of the tournament flips the sport on its head, not only by forcing you to have certain archetypes, but also by prioritizing like, um, different things that you normally wouldn't prioritize. Like, no one is expected to repair their entire 30-pound robot in 8 minutes after a fight anywhere. Like I've no one's built their robot to do that. So it kind of it's like looking at the sport in a completely different way. It's super super interesting. It's like putting on a new pair of glasses. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but it was really really cool to see the sport like turned around on its head.
All right, so coming from the NHRL culture to the Robot Rampage culture, it was very, very drastically different. NHRL can, in part, is the more you pay, the better you'll do. Like showing up with multiple copies of your robot will outcome a better result for the most part, depending on who your matches are. Having that ability to just swap in a brand new robot rather than focus on repairing the one robot makes it easier in a sense, but it doesn't guarantee you're going to win the entire thing. Going into Robot Rampage knowing that you aren't allowed to swap in an entirely new robot. You have to fix it in 8 minutes. It really made me, and I'm sure Johnny, and we look at our robots and say, okay, how am I going to arrange and organize this robot to be easily repaired in 8 minutes? So it might be something like having connectors on everything, having your ability to swap out certain sections of your robot a lot easier than it would be at NHRL. In that focus alone, I liked it because now you're not focusing on pay to play. You're focusing on looking at your design and optimizing it to be able to fix it in the short time that you have. Um, One of the other rules that we initially didn't know was you're not allowed any configuration swaps. Whatever your robot goes into the match of the day, it stays that way. So you're not going to change from forks to wedge, partially in part because you don't know what your next opponent may be. So you're kind of thinking, okay, I need my robot to be kind of the Swiss Army knife of robots. It has to be able to kind of account for almost everything. Which, in that regard, it's nice because now you're not playing who can throw on the biggest forks or who can throw on the largest wedge possible, because the wedge match one might be great. Match two would probably be the worst option to run. So you kind of find a happy balance in there. And like Johnny was saying, I've never been more on my seat watching someone fix their robot in the 8 minutes. Like everyone was like, "Oh, are they going to get it done in time?" Like there were times where a robot would take minimal damage, and it was just something like swapping the batteries out, tightening things. But there were a couple matches where, oh, the robot is really damaged, and we need to get this repaired. So it was kind of fun seeing both sides. And some people that don't even build, they may want to see what it looks like on the inside of a robot. They may want to see what it takes to physically fix the robot to get it from damaged to working. And so it was ingenious in that part for Jack and Nick and the rest of the Robot Rampage guys to implement this style that kills the dead time, like Johnny was saying. Um, it's definitely a very unique style, and I like it because also when talking to the Brazilians, they don't build control bots. They build kinetic energy robots. They build drum spinners. They build beater bars. They build some horizontals, but it's mostly the vertical spinners that they build. And so for them to have to dive into other archetypes, to have to include, really open their eyes into what does it take and what do we have to be able to focus on to be able to make this work. Um, Overall, I really loved the format and the structure.
Yeah, I definitely did as well. Now, I obviously have to ask the question because I talked to Phil from the Australian team about what happened with USA versus Australia. So I'm curious, from your perspective, Corey, to talk about what Synthesis was able to do in that match, and also to get Johnny's reaction to what Synthesis was able to do in that match.
First and foremost, I need to say that I love Phil. He's an amazing, amazing person, and the rest of Team Australia. I think his name is Newton.
Newton?
He,
Yeah.
yeah, he had the robot Tempest. All of them were so fun to hang out with, so helpful. Like when they were fighting the other team, they were fighting Brazil. No, they fought New Zealand. We made sure to help them out any way that we could. Um, I don't want to sound disrespectful. I think what it ultimately came down to was new bots with lots of gremlin versus synthesis that's been iterated for over 3 years. I mean, you can literally see version one up until probably, I don't know, last year. It had so many gremlins that it was constantly, it would have a good match and then it would have a whole bunch of bad ones. So going into this, I didn't take any of them for granted, but at the same time, I knew a lot of them had first bought gremlins. So it I don't think it wasn't apples to apples. It was kind of apples to oranges. All of them are very competent builders, but your first version, especially of a 30, is generally not going to be the one that's winning everything. And also too, synthesis is not a general bot design that a lot of people encounter on a frequent basis. It's designed specifically to outreach you. It's designed to hit things that you're not normally getting hit by. It's just so large, and that's one of the most intimidating aspects of it. And just if you put it next to almost any of the other Australian bots, it kind of makes them look like they're in different weight classes. So I did use that to my advantage. Driving on the steel floors was definitely amazing. If NHRL ever decides they want to go to steel floors, I will never fight them for it. You get so much more traction when you're driving on it. It's just unworldly how easy it is to maneuver around. But so the first match was against Dreadnought. I'm terrified of Melties. I've not had the best luck against Melties. But I knew if as long as I could catch him before he spun up, I would have a good chance. Sure enough, the disc was able to bend at the top plate, and then he got high centered. Um, Phil going in against Hio, he had nothing but bot gremlins. The weapon didn't get spun up. I hit him a couple times, and he ended up upside down, and he wasn't able to drive. I know the feeling of taking unnecessary damage, so I wasn't going to keep hitting him. I left him. He got counted out. The next match was against Tempest. Actually, no, the next match was going to be against Frogish, but he was having issues getting the weapon to connect to the transmitter, so they pulled it and they put in Tempest. Tempest is a four-wheel drive vert. When talking to Newton, I said the first thing you need to do when you redesign this is put some type of fork or something on the front because it's a very flat faced and it's a lot of ground clearance. So we went nose to nose, and he also learned why some people don't like running links. Soon as we collided, his link instantly popped out of the robot. In his words, he wasn't quick enough to run over and catch the link before it hit the ground, so the robot shut off. And then my last match was against Frogish. I had some weird electrical issue happen where when we collided, the robot was bouncing around, and then when I finally regained my footing, I hit him one more time, and then the robot wouldn't drive forward for some reason. But Frogish being a brand new robot as well too, had better than normal gremlins, but still a couple gremlins. But after that, I was thinking, okay, I can repair this. However, let's give Johnny a chance to get some stick time because if he goes in cold the next day, it's not going to be fun. So we made the executive call to pull Synthesis 30, give Johnny a chance, and Johnny can talk about his match against Innator.
Yeah, Corey's too OP. He needs to be nerfed. He let me play. He let me have some fun. They're wrecking everyone. It is a good point he brought up, and I don't think it's disrespectful at all. I think it's just like a great um a great point that synthesis, like, no offense to you, Corey, but I'm sure the first version of synthesis competing there would have been like a totally different, it would have been totally different. The first version of any one of I mean, you saw Spartan, like this is still basically the first version and it's pretty bad. Um, and that's just like, it's just data. Corey has 3 years of data fighting, these mostly brand new robots. It also helps that Corey's like really, really good at driving synthesis. I think that's one of the things I learned almost about myself and Spartan 30 is that I'm almost holding the robot back with my driving. I feel like I'm still learning how to drive a 30. And seeing Corey have like full control of where synthesis goes in the box was really inspiring. Um, so yeah, that's my thoughts on the Corey Nason incident of 2026 that happened in New Zealand. Um, he did let me play against Inator, which I was terrified of, I'm not gonna lie. Because in the previous Robot Rampage event, it pinned another horizontal Mjolnir and went straight through the top. It's a hammer saw, and hit the lipos, and it was fire, and it I think they used it as their thumbnail as well. Um, Inator is so cool. That thing would be right at home in NHL. It's tracked, turreted hammer saw. It's so cool. Um, but yeah, I fought him. Hayden's a really, really awesome guy. It was really cool to fight him. I love Inator. Inator is like one of the most beautiful, cool looking robots there. Um, yeah, I think he box rushed me a little bit. But I spun up, hit him, got stuck in the side. I went through the UHMW and like hooked in. And then we just kind of like spun around. It was really funny. I got unstuck. He almost pinned me because I am not good at driving my robot, and he's a good driver. And I think I just like backed into him and then finally realized like, oh, I have to drive my robot. And spun up, got away, and then I hit him head on and I hit his aluminum frame. I went through the TPU and hit the aluminum frame. I put like a little rectangle hole in it. It was really funny. Um, and I think with that hit, it blew the outrunner cans off his drive motors, which is wild. But he gave me this fork, which is really, I was really giddy about this. I think this is such a cool trophy. Um, but you can see right where I cut through. Um, yeah, I was really surprised by like a 5-0 win. I was worried that we were gonna get 5-0 sweat. I don't know why, but before like any one of my fights, I lose all of my confidence in my robot. I just feel like it's gonna like I start thinking about like the wires that are literally this thin, where like if one comes off, my robot stops and things like that. Um, but yeah, Corey swept, and he was nice enough to let me play.
Yeah, like I said, I ultimately it's not apples to apples just because I think four of the robots, it was their first event ever, and like Johnny said, Synthesis V1, the 30 pounder, it might have driven into the center and got in one hit and then probably died. So I mean, I know the pains that they went through, and before each match too, like you sometimes you'll shake your opponent's hand, say good match. No, nice big hugs for everyone. I mean, even before Phil and I fought, we took a nice big selfie with a bunch of people. So I mean, it was just very heartfelt and warm feeling. It just felt very different compared to the NHRL where it is very hyper competitive, and so it's like some of your opponents may not be the friendliest before you when you're in the cage, but outside, um, it's a different story. Just through and through, from start to finish, each match, you just wanted a good match, and I was even cheering for Australia when we were fighting them. Just Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. It was just awesome.
Yeah, it definitely sounds that way.
Yeah, they
Um, Oh no, I was just gonna say that like even from Phil's perspective, because I know you said like about, feeling bad about saying things a certain way, but honestly, I think based on what Phil told me when I spoke to him, is that those fights I think gave them all so much good data on the robots and really inspired them to make changes to those designs in order to have a better result the next time out, especially against a robot like Synthesis. So I think they came away from that feeling very positive, going forward.
And I also think um, so each country had a very specific design ethos. Like Brazil is a lot of machined aluminums, steels, big rubber. Um, New Zealand is kind of a little mix of machining and welded steel, like Black Rose is welded steel. Fury Fox is a lot of machined aluminum. And then I think Australia, almost all their machines were like plastic or steel, and then you get America that has a lot of different makes too. Johnny's aluminum with TPU and different construction. So seeing something like Synthesis, I want to say, if I remember correctly, Phil was going to implement a lot of like plastics into his frame now instead of the steel, because I think in their mind maybe the umpy isn't an appropriate material to use, so they call it UHMW. They call it umpy. Um, in their mind, they may not think it actually works, but then when they see Synthesis working, it opens up their mind to, okay, well, I think this material can work, and I think that's really cool that certain things that they inspire us to do, we can inspire them to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's like different design cultures across the world, and that was a really cool melting pot of different, like obviously different cultures, but just different, like the robots have cultures too. It's really cool. Um, and yeah, exactly like Corey said, like we had the some of the biggest robots there. We because I guess that's just the direction um robots at NHRL seem to be going as well, like utilizing size in the arena and lots of UHMW, even like TPUs in 30s, like a lot of my robots TPU. Um, might be changing some of that to UHMW because some of it didn't go well. But yeah, a lot of like TPU, UHMW, aluminums, steels, obviously. But the Brazilians are like pack everything as small and as thick as possible. Big wheels. The wheels are the armor. Um, totally unique like style that kind of like breeds within itself because they are fighting in Brazil constantly. So they have their own like ecosystem. The US, obviously, we have ours, and then like Australia, yeah, they were all welded steel frames. That was so cool. I'd never really seen a welded steel 30-pound frame at NHRL. Sorry to all the welded steel frame NHRL builders who compete in the 30-pound class. Um, but and then yeah, like New Zealand, I'm sure Endgame kind of inspired the machined aluminum thing because they love doing that. Um, so yeah, so interesting to see all the like different melting pots. It felt like, you know, when like you went to camp as a kid in the summer and you made friends that you like knew you probably wouldn't see again, maybe ever, until like maybe next year they'll be there. That's what it felt like. Like I feel like I made some like really awesome best friends at camp that I might not see for a while. Um, but yeah, me and Corey could just talk about for hours and hours like how nice everyone was. Everyone was just so nice. Like we could write like a book about each person and why they were like so cool and nice, I feel
Yeah.
like.
I don't know when you edit this, I sent you a picture. You could just see the size difference between the robots. Like I have Synthesis 30 and Synthesis 12 next to Innator, Heo, and Tempest, and you can see the drastic size difference. And kind of going back, I think Synthesis's size alone is what kind of helps it navigate around the cage and help it
Mm.
have some success, more or less.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm really excited about how the event went as a whole because I know it sounds like they would like to see this event happen next year, but even bigger. You know, in an ideal world, even as much as doubling it and having 8 teams, and I think that would be absolutely insane. And add like a whole other layer of things to the mix because I mean, you know, you figure if you have UK bots in there, you know, they kind of have their own style and things like that, where I think it would be maybe more control bot heavy than like Brazil, for example. So yeah, I'm excited to see if this comes back. I guess last thing is just kind of to get your overall like final thoughts now that you've kind of had some time to reflect on the event and think about the experience. Just any final thoughts that you want to impart about that experience and how it went for you.
I think the fact that we can take a hobby that we have zero intentions of making money and really doing anything with, we're doing it just for the love of the sport. We can have this hobby shared with people all around the world, and we can have the invitation to fly to New Zealand to share the same hobbies with them and to be able to do this to represent for us to represent the United States was an amazing opportunity because I mean, I don't know, I've never heard of people having the ability to travel to Germany to do a hopscotch event. So I mean, it's just like I never thought like I started this like journey 2014, 2015, and I never thought ever that my combat robotics experience would gain me the opportunity to fly outside of the United States to be able to enjoy the cultures that they have. And I mean, if anyone has the chance to go to New Zealand, Australia, if you have the chance to go anywhere, please do because I've never left the really left the East Coast. So this was a big journey for me to go abroad to New Zealand and I did it with some beautiful people. Johnny's amazing. Put up with my snoring. Sam, Colin. I mean, outside of NHRL, like I don't really see Sam. I don't get to talk to him. I don't get to talk to Colin. So we got to hang, and then Danielle, we got to hang out with all of the NHRL crew. So it's like these people that we don't even know, and like outside of seeing them for a couple minutes at a time, just getting to experience who they are as people is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Um, that was a big thing for me as well. I was really excited to like get to know Sam because I like kind of I knew Sam and he knew me. But he's always so like busy during the event. You know, there's not much free time he has. I had never even met Colin, so it was really, really cool to meet him. I loved him and Danielle as well. I'd only like really seen her do during like interviews, basically. Um, and meeting Aki, who was our stand-in as well. And
Oh,
even
sorry to cut you off. I need to thank Aki for stepping in for Team USA. Thank you, Aki.
yeah,
All right, John, go ahead, Johnny.
honorary American for that event. Um, yeah, just like even Corey, like I've known Corey since like I started competing in 2021. But getting to travel with him as well was really fun. And even if he is snory, um, that's a joke. But yeah, like overall thoughts for me, I'm just so it sounds very cringy and corny, but like very, very, very grateful to be chosen to have that experience and for Jack's gratitude for literally paying for us to fly. And guess what? When I got there, he was thanking us. He was like, "Oh, thank you guys so much for coming out." Like, what are you talking about? You just paid for our flights, picked us up from the airport. We're staying with your dad, who's making us like princess breakfasts every morning. They're so nice. They're so nice. I thought they would be like kind of intense and because Endgame is like such a high level battle bot. I mean, they have a giant nut there. But they're so friendly and nice. It was so cool. Um, and yeah, it was inspiring for me in a way that like robot combat generated that whole experience, and that's it. And I haven't even gotten first place at any event ever. So it's almost just like be like just I don't even know, just being in the sport, I guess, and just doing your thing. Not that I'm like some crazy cool person, but um
You're crazy cool, Johnny.
no, I'm not, Mr. I almost went 5-0 at New Zealand. Um that is sweet. But like school didn't have anything to do with that or no other like outside factors in life um like created this opportunity and experience to go to frickin' New Zealand. So cool. And that's really inspiring in a way like for me to see that oh robot combat like opens these doors and connections to like really really cool people across the world I would have never met um and yeah. It's hard to sum everything up in a closing thought without just like rambling on and on. Um, but yeah, just like a lot of thank yous. That'd be my closing thought. A lot of thank yous and missing a lot of people from there. It was really, really, really cool.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely seemed like an amazing experience. And I'm so excited that this got such a great reception. And definitely hoping to see it come back again in the future, even bigger. So here's hoping and hoping that, people can have some reunions maybe for part two. So all right. So, for my last segment of this episode covering Robot Rampage, I, of course, had to have representation from the champion team, Brazil. So, I have Felipe here with me to talk about your team's experience in the competition. So, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Christine. It's been amazing to be invited from this talk here, and it's been a great pleasure to be in Robot Rampage also. And thank you very much again.
Yeah, for sure. First, I want to talk real quick, as I did with kind of a lot of the other teams, about just getting the invitation. I think it shouldn't be any surprise to anybody that Brazil would get invited because you have such a really great combat robotic scene down there. But talk a little bit about your team's like excitement to get to go to this event.
Oh yeah, that was really great. I mean, we never thought we could like fight in New Zealand. It's been a different scenario for us because we usually go for, like in Brazil, US, and we've been a couple of times in Abu Dhabi. Actually, not mostly in Abu Dhabi. A few Brazilian teams have been there, but like Russia and India and China also, but not in New Zealand. It was our first time there, so it was a really great. Jack and Nick, they made up like a very nice. They felt us to feel like home, so it was really great. And to be invited, it was like really nice. But at start, we didn't had like five bots in just one team, like five featherweights. So what we did was like meet up with other teams. So the I would say the largest Brazilian team is Wire Team and Real Bots from Minotaur and Black Dragon. So they both meet up, and so how are we gonna make this work? So each one got like one bot, and we just built two others, and we were able to get the Robot Rampage. It was really nice. I mean, uh, the the way Robot Rampage works is very different from every other competition we've been. So having five bots and fighting them straight into a row, it's totally different. It needs to be like four different type of bots, so it gets harder. But it's also like it challenged us to make the bot better and like improve. So it was a really nice.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about that, the competition being so different, because I mean, I know a little bit about the Brazilian combat robot scene, just because I'm a, a huge fan of Minotaur. It's my favorite combat robot. And so I know that the bots down there tend to be a little bit more focused on offense, and be, have big weapons and things like that. But for this, you kind of had to think a little bit differently and build different types of robots. So how much of a challenge was that?
Yeah, totally. That's a very good question. I mean, Brazil style is usually spinners. You're gonna see many spinners. So we also tend to go for vertical spinners, which are it's a specialist. Uh, the thing is, we have like two spinners already. So Dark Chaos is already proven a very good bot in Brazil. Total Feather, which is like a miniature version of 13 kilos. And we had already Jubileo, which is our horizontal spinner. So the challenge was way more into designing two different bots, which was Dark Scorpion and Ghost Razor. So those two bots we created from scratch. Real bots came up with the idea of the lifter. So they built Ghost Razer and Warrior Team and UFO bots and Ogre bots, which is UFO bots and Ogre bots are like two teams that were from Warrior Team. They just graduated. I am from Ogre bots, so when I graduated, we just meet up and build bots. This is what we do. We love doing for fun, so it is a really great. And then we came up with Dark Scorpion, which is a overhead saw, and we just had to design it and focus on different ways of doing it, So it was really challenging, but we already have in three proven very good bots. It was a really lesson learned to a way of focusing on those other two bots, because it's a way of getting further in the competition. So it was, I would say that is more or less like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Now I want to talk about the actual experience of the competition because something that I heard from all of the teams was, not just the competition was great, but getting to spend time with the other competitors and just, check out their robots, that everybody was so friendly and, you all were able to kind of spend some time together and have this really nice, like, fun event. So talk about that aspect of getting to like interact with the other competitors and teams.
Oh, that was. I mean, I love combat robotics, and mainly because of the people who are in it. So everything I've experienced up to this point, I've been in combat robotics for 10 years now. So I've been around, and I really felt like home there. So uh, I've been to BattleBots like a couple of times. It was really nice. The teams were very helpful, but there is a higher challenge. I don't know how I would describe that. It's great. It's amazing. But at New Zealand, it felt like more the so it's less people than BattleBots. I mean, it was like four teams. So we were like meeting up and being together like every day. So and we need the help from them. I mean, uh, the team Australia really really was incredible. And New Zealand and the US, they were amazing to us. So it was great, really great. I mean, once Dark Chaos had like a broken disc, the guys from Australia, oh, we can help you guys because there's like one of them. It's like a professional welder, so he just helped us like welding all the disc and preparing everything. And also, we were spending like the whole day into the workshop, so we were there, and everyone have different bots and different approach on how to do combat robotics. So it was really nice to see how everyone is thinking on and what different ideas it's what take us ahead. So the idea of having different motors building in a different way. For me, one of the bots I've never seen anything like that was Black Rose from New Zealand. Connor is just an incredible guy. He's amazing. He's very smart. He's very helpful, and it's a bot completely made of steel. And this is in Brazil is not very common. So it was really amazing to see how everything was working. And I mean, it was amazing. Everyone, I just love the competition itself.
Yeah, and obviously good result because you ended up winning the whole thing. I'm curious, after watching Team USA and seeing Synthesis go through almost all of their robots, was that, intimidating at all? And did you have to come up with like a game plan to try and deal with that? Because Synthesis is a very powerful robot.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, for the first day, we just faced New Zealand, and it was really, really, really tough. It was like 9 matches, and it was decided like in the last minute by the last bot we had, and also for them. So it was really tight. And when we saw US fighting Australia, and it was almost like 5-0, I was like, man, we are done. We're gonna have so much work to make it possible to go to the final, to like beat them. But what already happened? Jubileu already faced synthesis in Norwalk before, so we already had some experience. I would say that the mind game was like way harder than I ever thought. I really thought that US would never start with Bad Blood. They would like go with Synthesis, or we go with Spartan, or even Jump Rope. But I could never see it going that way. So when they started with Bad Blood, I was already, oh man, this is gonna be tough. We managed to beat Bad Blood, and then Spartan later. But then Synthesis came up, and it was like just like two hits, and Jubilee was out. So just completely obliterated Jubilee. But I mean, uh, at this fight, I believe I don't remember if it was against Jubilee that they just had the Synthesis out for repairing it. I believe it was. Synthesis was very scary for us. We think for a 3 minutes fight is really really tough to like keep very good hits. So we always try in Brazil to have like a bot for a 3 minutes fight. You've seen Black Dragon and Minotaur like burning for 3 minutes and they were still going. So that's what the idea that we do also in our 13 kilo bots. So we try to manage that, but absolutely, Australia, New Zealand, and US were like, I think we're gonna have a lot of trouble with any bot they use it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, like winning had to be amazing. I think one of my favorite things of watching Brazilian teams is you all have so much passion and energy for, combat robotics. And when you get a win, you can feel it through just watching it through a screen as to how exciting it is for the team. I guess kind of just talk about like robotics in Brazil and like the philosophy behind it, and that where that passion comes from.
Oh, that's very nice also, because I mean in Brazil, mostly of combat robotics starts at university, because there are many projects inside college. Is mainly in engineering. They have already like this culture of having those teams. For example, Wire Team and the Real Bots, they are over 25 years. So it's been in Brazil for a while. So this passion just keep growing, and the competitions in Brazil are just getting like way more crowded. And I think like 2 months from now we are going to have a competition in Brasilia, which is the capital of Brazil, and I believe it's around like over 200 bots. So uh, with for every category, so it goes from 1 pound to 60-pound bots. So it's many bots, and we love tyranny. I believe for every sport, Brazil, we are very into it. We put a lot of effort, and I think that's why we just celebrate that much. And just being there, it was already a win. It was already amazing to be there, to be competing with great people. I can emphasize enough how uh, grateful I was, and like happy I was for being with everyone there. So having this result was really amazing, especially that there was some Brazilian people that went to watch us, and it was the people there was like we didn't know them, and as soon as they got in the competition, it felt like we already knew them for like years. We just became friends. We also, after the competition, we went to have some barbecue with them, so it was a really great thing. But yeah, I would say for New Zealand, most of the people there from Brazil was like very. It's been in the sport for a while, like over 10 years. And when we are here, we go to the competitions. We are also like medium to most experienced people in the competition, and we see that people cheer that much also, so they really feel the belonging of the on the team. So it's a team member spirit, so uh I mean, it's important to also to have the idea of respect. I don't think it's sometimes we need to manage that because uh, I don't like to be the one if your bot got destroyed. It's not nice for anyone to like make fun of each other. So we also put a lot of respect on everything we do. I think that's very important also. This is the other view that sometimes we don't think that much, but I always say to the team members, so let's balance everything because I don't like to be like not a very humble person, and how people have been to us there, it was like really amazing, and uh, I think it was awesome in the like in resume, like in the end.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, I certainly thought that they like the whole concept of the Robot Rampage competition was really great. And I know it's something that they want to continue in the future and potentially make it bigger. I'm all for any combat robotics anywhere, in the world. I think that we need to kind of look at it more globally because there's so much more that's just going on outside of here where I'm at in the States. And so I loved having the opportunity to talk about this competition, and I'm excited to see kind of where it goes. But hopefully we'll see Brazil there again next time if they do it again next year.
Yeah, I hope that also. I mean, for every competition that is around, we are going to try as hard as we can to be part of it. Sometimes hard to organize everything because we unfortunately we don't live from combat robotics. It's a dream for us, for everyone that work that have this hobby, but uh, for now we have like also some work to do besides building bots, but who knows someday. But for sure we are going to do everything we can to manage and organize ourselves to participate in every competition that we can. The experience, the environment, the people you met, it really worth it. So um, I would also like to thank for uh, Warrior team, Ogrobot's team, UFO team, uh, Realbot's team. They could not be here today, unfortunately. Some of them are working, some of them are traveling. Uh, the one of the guys from UFO team, Vinicius, he's living in China. He just moved to China like 2 days after we got in Brazil. He just flew to China and he's been living there. His wife is doing a master degree there, so he could not participate, but he just sent a very thank you for everyone who is watching, and for also for you, Christine. I would say that we are going to try for sure to be in many other competitions we can. Yeah, I think that's it. One of the things that Vinicius said that uh, I just remember, I would like also to thank Robocore, which was the our sponsor. Robocore is like is the event organizer who do the competitions here in Brazil. So they sell a lot of things. They sell like wheels for combat robotics, some electronics, and they just helped us to be there in New Zealand because it's a 14, actually it's more than 14. It's like a 17 hours flight. We have to do some connection and all that stuff. But we were very welcome there. They were very great for us. I mean, it was really great, really great.
Well, that's amazing. And yes, much love for like the appreciation and everything else like that, because like I love what y'all are doing down in Brazil. And obviously what they're doing in New Zealand as well. So for anybody that's watching, please support all of these combat robotics competitions everywhere, because we need to have more of them. And like, subscribe, share this episode, comment, engage, all of those good things, and just keep watching. And we'll see everybody next time on the show.